All the customers we talk to, being in the mobility segment, but also energy storage, they want localized supply.
Europe's turn towards clean energy and its very ambitious transition to emission-free cars by 2035 already creates a huge need for lithium-ion batteries. A need that comes along with the necessity for huge manufacturing capacities on the one hand, but also the whole ecosystem around it. So, say for example research, but also the sourcing of raw materials. Hence, you currently read about new gigafactories being launched all across the continents, with politicians scrambling to lure investors to build their gigafactory in their constituency, because usually they also come with a promise of high-skilled labor and a boost for the economy. But could this industry really be an important cornerstone of our future economy? And will we ever stand a chance against Asian competitors who are already several steps ahead of us? Let's find out in this episode. Welcome to the Smartery podcast, a podcast for and with the creators of the new energy world. A world in which energy will be renewable, decentralized and digital, bringing together electricity, heat and mobility. Let us show you how we will get there and who will get us there. One of these brand new battery companies out there building gigafactories certainly believes in Europe as a manufacturing site, because they even go so far as to call their company FREYR after the Nordic god for prosperity and peace. So I'm very glad today to talk to Gery Bonduelle, who's the Executive Vice President at FREYR, and who not only is involved in the process there, but has already seen the development of the industry throughout the past 25 years. So I'm very excited to hear his perspective on what's going on all around gigafactories at the moment. Welcome, Gery.
Thank you, Zach. Nice to meet you.
Gery, you and I are sitting here at the Smartery Restart in Munich as we speak. So if you hear some chatter in the background, that's due to the very busy fair taking place. Gery, in one of my previous episodes, I had the head of sustainability of Polestar as a guest. And she said one of the biggest challenges really is to bring down the cradle-to-gate emissions. So all the emissions that are necessary to build an electric vehicle before it actually leaves the company grounds. Now FREYR actually prouds themselves and made it their dedicated mission to become the lithium-ion battery manufacturer with the cleanest slate in manufacturing. How are you planning to achieve that? And how much would the difference be in a FREYR battery pack compared to, let's say, an average standard run-of-the-mill battery pack?
Yes, thank you for that question. It's very, very important. We have that question from all our customers and potential customers. All the car manufacturers, they want to produce cars with low CO2 emission during use, of course, with an EV. But it's very important that during manufacturing, there are low emissions as well. We all have the ambition to contribute to the climate change mitigation actions, and EV is one way. So we need to make sure the CO2 are low level throughout the chain. So one of our main ambition at FREYR, and the reason why we launched that new company, is to be contributing to this CO2 reduction. And all our activities are linked to this. So we estimate today, to answer your question, that to produce 1 kilowatt hour of lithium-ion cells, we generate on average in the world today 80 kilo of CO2 for 1 kilowatt hour of lithium-ion cells. At FREYR, we have the ambition to lower this number to 15 throughout using renewable energy that is highly available in Norway, where we will be locating our factory. There are surplus of hydroelectric power. So we'll use that to power our factory. So that will help us to reduce the CO2 emission. That's only the first step. To go from 80 to 15, we need not only to produce the cells, but also to bring the suppliers. So the suppliers are also very important in the raw material, the way they are processed and how they are processed to reduce that number. And that's one of our key actions, is also to bring them with us.
I was just about to ask in which bits of the manufacturing process these vast quantities of energy are necessary. So you said in the sourcing of the raw materials?
The big sources of CO2 emission are the cell production itself, meaning that we receive raw material and we will process this raw material to produce the electrodes, and we pack these electrodes, we produce the cells. So that's one big portion. The second portion is the actual active material production itself. the powder of LFP or NMC material. This is what we call the cathode material. Those are very energy intensive. So it's a second layer, and we are talking to all the suppliers to come close to us to have the same benefit of having this hydro energy available in north of Norway.
How big of a difference then does it make just to use renewable energies? And how much can you save just by having an innovative production process? Because I think renewable energies, that's not patented. Anybody can start to buy renewable energy.
That's a very good point. And that's when at FREYR we launched, our founder launched this ambition. We realized that, yes, renewable energy is not sufficient to be competitive on this market. So we had to find also something relatively differentiating from the others. And we found with 24M technology, we are taking a license from this technology company from the US that is very specific in a sense that we have the capacity to use less material in the lithium battery. And we also have a more simplified process that need less energy, less manufacturing steps, and overall give us an advantage because we will not only having a lower bill of material, lower cost of content, but lower energy usage during the manufacturing of those cells. So we will win on both fronts. We will have a lower CO2 emission by design and also basically a lower cost by design because this specific process is less demanding in terms of amount of raw material.
Just to complete the picture, because I think that was really interesting for me to find out in the research beforehand, is that some of the sourcing of the raw materials actually happens in the Nordics as well. So you plan to build your manufacturing site in Norway, but you plan to source from Finland, not so far away, actually just half a truck day away. So
in reality, the first stage is really Norway, but you're well informed. You probably have seen some of our announcement that we have signed some MOU with the city of Vaasa and FMG Group in Finland, where there is the potential to have raw material located in Finland. So Finland, but also Norway, when you look at the map of all the raw material available in Europe, there are a lot in the Nordic country. So that's really an advantage that we want to take for our sites.
I think what really was interesting about that, because to me as like an industry outsider, I always assume raw materials always come from China or I don't know, South America. And I guess that comes along with shipping and with probably not so clean mining processes. So that's really interesting news that actually we do have raw materials here. And I think in Finland, for example, it seems to be such a big potential that they already have the hopes that this could become the big next Nokia, so the big next step for prosperity in Finland.
Yes, so a lot of action ongoing. At FREYR want to be fast, so we have to be open. We will start with our raw material coming from Asia. We want to be fast. We want to be ready already next year with some product. So the first step will be with raw material sourcing from Asia. But in parallel, we are working very hard with all those potential sourcing. And our endpoint is really to get those raw material coming from Europe.
Since we already talked about Asia, how is the situation between Europe and Asia? I think at the moment Asia is leading the market. They have the biggest capacities to produce batteries. So what are the chances of Europe catching up? So if you look at the market as such and not only look at FREYR, how are we positioned to catch up with Asia?
Asia took an advantage because they decided to go that route many years ago. Because the biggest player were in Japan, Korea, and now China. In Europe, it took a while to realize that there is also a big need and is a big shift, but it's never too late. So if you look at the map of all the Gigafactories that are planned to be launched in Europe to support mostly the EV manufacturer, we realize that we want to contribute. So we are ready, we want to start. Yes, we have something, we are late, but we are not too late. It's never too late. All the customers we talk to, being in the mobility segment, but also energy storage, they want localized supply. Localized supply is because of the low CO2 emission, the shorter supply chain, which is very important. So our actions at FREYR is really to meet the customer demand. And when I hear that they want local supply, but that's where we will try to contribute.
That would be my next question. So if you look at the competitiveness, not only at the numbers and the scale, is that the only way that European manufacturing sites could be competitive because they have a cleaner slate, they have lower CO2 emissions, or what other advantages could you have in European manufacturing?
It's a must, I should say. It's a must to have low CO2 emission during production, but that's not enough. We need to be competitive. In the end, what matters to our customer is to be competitive. And that's the main reason why we chose this particular technology, because we have to add something with a lower cost by design. Otherwise, if we have the same conventional process produced in Europe, it will be very difficult to find this competitiveness. So we have found a process that is beneficial to the customer in terms of content, and that's our differentiation. CO2 emission, but also a cost-competitive technology.
What you're saying at the bottom line is people want cleaner cars with lower CO2 emissions, but they're not willing to pay extra for it.
No, and that's a big challenge for the EV industry. Today, the battery is very expensive. And when we look at the market, and it's what our customers are telling us, they want to make the EV car accessible to the majority of people. And today, the cost of the battery is quite high. So there is a lot of action from the all parties in trying to reduce the costs. So lowering the supply chain costs, lowering the material content, improving the energy density. A lot is going on, and a lot is going on in Europe because those customers want European supply.
So how are politics and legislation playing a role in there? Does the framework work for you? Are there enough subsidies? What are some roadblocks if you look at legislation or politics?
I don't think there are roadblocks today. I think the political environment realized that there was a lot of knowledge and expertise in the battery world in Asia. And I think we have the risk of losing a little bit leadership in that area. So the different governments are trying to put subsidies together to help the different companies like us to launch ourselves. At FREYR, we didn't go that subsidy route just yet in large quantities. We chose another route. We wanted to be fast. Speed and scale is our motto at FREYR. We want to be fast, so we find a different way to get funding. But yes, it's a very capital-intense industry, so we need to get support. So any support that will drive the industry toward the success will be taken positively. If it's subsidies, that's I'm sure that will help. But what drives us is really the customer demand that wants this to happen in Europe. Mm-hmm. So basically any help will be appreciated for sure.
I think if you look at politics, of course, they want to get back that technological leadership here in Europe. Also, I mean, if you look at the car maker industry, so many jobs might just be gone because car making is a highly complex process that requires a lot of different parts, a lot of different industries in it. I guess there is a big hope that if we have the full chain of battery production in Europe, that could make up for a lot of jobs. So how much jobs, though, does battery production actually create? Because in my mind, it would be a highly automated plant. I don't know. Do you need a lot of workers actually?
It's highly automated, but we need skilled operators. It's a lot of robotics that needs to be maintained. It's still some manual operation. We are talking gigawatt hour. It's a massive amount of cells. So at FREYR, we anticipate that we will generate around 1,500 jobs in the location where we'll be produced in north of Norway in Mo i Rana. We ambition to produce 43 gigawatt hour by 2025 and even more than around 80 by 2028. It's a massive amount of cells. So we will need power. So we are proud to generate jobs. And that's what drives us as well at FREYR. There is an opportunity, and our society will benefit.
Would that be an average ratio, 1,500 people per 40 gigawatt factory?
I cannot, no, I don't have the real number per gigawatt hour. We have an estimated number, and depending how fast we will improve, how fast we will find efficiency, this number will probably evolve. Right. It's the first number that top of my head, but for sure, the quantity of gigawatt hour we talk about are massive. So we will generate those jobs. And I have to add also, when we bring the supply chain with us, it's additional job that we will bring.
Yeah, and if you talk about supply chain, you talk about the mining operations in Finland, for example, that also create jobs and highly skilled jobs.
The customer, the car makers are telling us the EV is coming. Yeah. There is no doubt EV is coming. So if it's down to us, different battery companies, to make it happen in Europe, so we are creating those jobs.
Now, we always talked about lithium-ion technologies so far, Gery. Is that really the future? Or do we have to switch to solid-state batteries in 5 years already? You seem to be betting on lithium-ion batteries.
In my experience, long experience in the battery industry, when a battery exists at the lab level, it takes 10-15 years to get industrialized. So there are a lot of new technologies every day. When we read the news, then there is new chemistry that come into play at lab level. But today, lithium-ion it's a group of technologies. But this group of technology, yes, is well mature. But the whole industry have embraced this technology and is going full speed because it meets requirements. There will be increments of improvement, but based on this technology. The road for improvement, all the roadmap that we have at FREYR, but others, show that lithium-ion have ways of improvement by increment for the next decade or more. That will meet the customer requirement in terms of energy efficiency, energy density, and cost. So they are the ultimate goal of solid state that some are saying that it's the Graal. I think today it's still a Graal. We believe on something that is real because, as our CEO always says, speed, scale, and sustainability is our motto. To be fast, we can't wait for those new technology. We need those EV batteries now, and it's lithium-ion now, and for the next decade, I'm sure.
On top of that, you are producing for a client-based car makers that really need reliability. Yes. So I don't think they're too keen to jump on a brand new technology anytime soon because they want it to work and that's it.
Yeah. So there is a road to this ideal technology, but I think the current one is there for a long time.
Maybe just a time frame from your side. So we heard for example, you're planning a model site in the coming years, then you're planning the big Gigafactory until 2025, you said, I think? Yes. What do you think, apart from your ambitions, but also Europe as such, how soon would we be able to have an almost closed loop supply chain here in Europe and not depend on China so much anymore for example, raw materials?
We want to have this set up by 2025.
2025, so in 4 years already we could. And would there be enough raw materials for other companies as well, or is it something you secured exclusively for FREYR?
That I cannot disclose those. There is a lot of, I can tell you, the raw material. I don't think there will be a shortage of raw material in the lithium-ion industry. But yes, we are securing with many discussions with all the suppliers. So we have our volume when we need it at the pace we need. That's very important. But the pure raw material shortage at the moment, I don't think it's really an issue. It's just to get sure that each manufacturer get in time what they need.
Okay, so that's really interesting. There is enough raw materials. That's really good to know. We talked about sustainability and electrification in the past years. At the moment, the EU is more and more focusing also on the circular economy. So how far advanced are you in terms of really creating battery packs that are compatible with the circular economy, that you can fully recycle?
That's being a responsible company. We have to think from the beginning of the circular economy. So of course, recycling, it's in the scope of all the giga-scale factories, and that's one of our scope as well. We took a technology that 24M also adds some advantage versus the others without going into details. Lithium-ion manufacturer will generate a lot of scrap at the beginning. It's known. We have the capability to reuse this scrap in our factory without too much rework compared to the conventional lithium-ion technology. And of course, at the end of life, we are partnering, we are intending to partner with recycling companies in Norway, but outside Norway as well, where the batteries are, to be able to recycle our product and reuse the material that are in those batteries.
Apart from FREYR, if you look in the industry as such, for example, I just want to make the comparison with wind turbines. At the moment, you see these pictures of the first generation of wind turbines in Europe being put down in this massive landfills, unrecycled. So is that something that will happen to the first generation of EV batteries?
I was last week in a conference in Lyon, and the recycling topic is at the heart of every discussion. So all the material that we already choose now for the design of our products and design of our cell, but our module and pack and rack, we already think about how we can dismantle that.
Okay, that's good news. And then just last, an estimate on a different topic, because we discuss vehicle to grid in a lot of other episodes, just your personal estimate. How many years until we really have a big number of electric vehicles as an integral part of a decentralized energy system, as a buffer? How far are we from that vision in your...
That's a very good question. It's the grid. It depends also the users. As a user, will the user accept that their batteries are used as a buffer? Or do we need to also add batteries in as energy system storage, like what we are here on this show today? In Intersolar EES is also to demonstrate that we can put large batteries to support renewable integration. I don't know. I think it's going to be a mix. Some of the cars can help, EV car can help, but they are really, the battery design for EVs are really specific for this application. We want to have also product designed specifically to support the grid. And so I think it's going to be a mix of the two solutions. But I'm not sure if the EV use that supporting the grid is the ultimate goal.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so there are still a lot of things to be debated in that vision. Thanks for that analysis, Gery. So if I wrap up my thoughts of our conversation, what am I taking from this conversation? Battery production is highly energy intensive, so you really need to make sure that you have renewables in the production process. But more than that, you need to make sure that you bring down the energy consumption as such in the production process. For example, we didn't talk about that, but building smaller dry rooms, that's one of the energy intensive parts. Having a localized sourcing in the supply chain, very interesting that we actually do have enough raw materials here in Europe, not only for FREYR, but for all the other gigafactories as well, that we could actually produce a closed loop here in Europe, also having in mind these circular economies, so the recycling of battery packs in a couple of years. That was really interesting, Gery. Thanks for joining me today.
Thanks, Zach. That was very good. Thank you very much.
For more information on battery production in Europe and everything you need to know about other future-proof solutions for storing renewable energy, visit EES Europe. EES Europe is Europe's largest and most international exhibition for batteries and energy storage systems. You can find all the necessary information online at ees-europe.com.